Hello everyone, Sen here. In this video, you will learn how to interact with databases using SQLAlchemy within your Flask environment. We will have a database which will consist of two tables, an author table and a books table. Okay, and these two tables will consist of multiple authors, as you can see here, and it will consist of multiple books within these tables, and then we're going to use relationships to link both of these tables together. Okay, so first things first, what is SQLAlchemy? Basically, it's a toolkit that eases your interaction between your app and your SQL database. So like in this video, I'm going to use PostgreSQL, but like for the sake of example, let's say I have this code where I use the SQL library to interact with my SQL database. So I'm just taking all the attributes from the author table and then using a where clause. I can take all of this and then shorten this all into one simple line. That's it. Okay, so that's what SQLAlchemy is. It just makes your code easier to read, and it makes your interaction with your database easier. So now that we have laid down the groundwork, let's actually write some code. So first of all, what I want you to do is in your terminal in VS Code, I first want you to create a environment. So conda create -n, then I'm going to create my environment variable, environment name. Okay, now that I've activated it, let's now install some of the stuff that I need. Conda install C and now conda Flask. And then I'm going to install the Flask-SQLAlchemy package like so. Conda install dash C. I'm going to give myself some space over here. Dash C. Conda forge. And then my package name Flask-SQLAlchemy. Awesome. And then finally, we're going to install this package, which will allow us to use our PostgreSQL database in Python. Conda dash forge psg 2 dash binary. Okay, so first off, we have to create a database in this project, and your database can be hosted on anything. It can be hosted on a Docker instance or hosted on an Azure DevOps environment. But for this video, I'm gonna use something else. I'm gonna use something called Elephant SQL. So I'm gonna show it to you here, elephantsql.com. Yeah, so I'm gonna use this website, which is more than enough to host a database, and then also for this video. So let's create a database here. Okay, and when you click here in this, we need this connection string that we're gonna use later. In your project directory, you have to create a separate file called db.py, which will host our database. So first of all, from import, I'm gonna import this package SQLAlchemy, and then I want to initialize my database. So how do I do that? I do something like SQLAlchemy. That's it. Okay, and then let's now build our models for the tables. So as discussed before, we're going to have two models, an author table and a book table. So first off, let's start with author. I'm going to create a separate file called author.py. Then let's write some code. So first of all, I'm going to import my database that I just created from db, import db, and then alchemy.orm. I want to import this. I want to import mapped. I want to import mapped column. And now let's create our model. So I'm going to name it class here, and then it will be a model. So it will inherit from model. Okay. So I want to give it a table name as well. Table name 2 underscores, which will be author underscore table. And of course, since discussed before, our author is going to have two fields, which will be the ID naturally, mapped So it's going to be of type int mapped column. So create a column, and this will be the primary key. So I'm going to set primary key, and then it's going to be name mapped again. Here is equals to column, and it would be of type string. Sorry, string, and then nullable will be set to false. Okay, now that we've done this, let's now create other model, which will be book. So it's basically going to be the same thing. I'm just going to copy all of this, and then I'm going to get some of the stuff here again, rename it to book. It's going to be book table. So now that we've done that, I want to create a relation. So how do I do that? I'm going to relate it to the author table like so. I'm going to create another field called author ID, and then it will be of type int, which will of course be a mapped column. And then what I'm going to do is it's going to be a foreign key, db.foreign key, okay. And then how will I do it? It's going to link to author table dot id. So author table dot id, okay. And then now that we've done this, I want to make a code a little bit better as well. By that I mean I want to make my relation bi-directional. So how do I do that? I go again to author.py, and then I add another field here, is gonna be books. So books will be mapped. It will be list of book, okay, and it will be a relationship back populate to author. And then of course I have to make my imports relationship, and then from typing import list, and then I'm gonna do the same with my book file as well, since we have to import book. From book import book, and then I'm gonna go to author, import author, then I'm gonna do the same bi-directional thing. The author will be mapped with a single author. It's not gonna be a list, of course, so it's a one-to-many relation. Back populates with books, okay. And then since it's a relationship, I need to import relationship, okay. So one thing you need to notice is that if I import author, the file here we're importing book, so like these files are importing each other. This is what's called a circular import, which is a problem in many apps. So to fix this, what I can do is I can import the type checking module. By that I mean, so I go on the top, I do from typing, I import type checking. Then if the type checking is enabled, what do? I import author. Great. I'm gonna do the same with my author file. We're done now. Let's now build our API. So to initialize the Flask app, what you need to do is in your project directory create a separate file called main.py, which will be the entry point of this app. And then what you're gonna do is from Flask, we import Flask, of course, and then since we're going to want to get the request body in this project, we use import request, and then to send the result we send JSONify. Okay, then of course I'm going to import my database, and then I'm going to import my models as well, so that the database can put these models into my tables. Okay, and then of course to initialize my app, I'm gonna do Flask_name, all of the boilerplate code, and then this is one thing you need to take care of. So what SQL is gonna do is we need to set a environment variable config. So app.config, it accepts a special environment variable SQLAlchemy underscore database underscore URI. So basically what's happening is the SQLAlchemy library looks for this environment variable, and then it uses this environment variable to connect to a database. So we want to give it a connection string. So a connection string we can get from our Elephant SQL instance, and since you see this SQL URL thing, we just copy it. Now that we've copied it, we just paste it here. Okay, and then one thing you need to take care of is if I go here, I need to change to SQL. Okay, this is for compatibility issues. We've done this. Now what I'm going to do is db.init_app. So I need to hook up both the app and the database together. So I do database app. That's it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a simple Flask endpoint. So like if they get to the index directory, I'm going to run this function called create authors. And then what create authors is going to do is I'm going to create a variable. I'm going to create a variable called Bob, which will be an author. So I want to create an author which will have the name Bob. Okay, and then I want to have another author will be of author called Alice. Okay, and then I want to save them to the database. So what I do is db.session.add_all. So then I add all of these instances to my database. So Bob, Alice. And then to finalize this transaction, what I do is db.session.commit. Okay, and then I'm going to do return a message. So then when everything's done, what I want to do is I want to use my app context to add all of the tables to the database. So to do so, it's fairly simple. What I'm going to do is _name, if it's equals to my main file. If it is, then using my app context, I'm going to create the database. And then I'm going to run the app with the debugger enabled. Okay, so to run the app, what I want to do is python3 main.py. Gonna run the app with the debugger mode on, and then let's see if it has created the tables into my database. So if I go to browser, surely enough, I'm going to see my tables. Yeah, great. The tables and the book is all there, and then I'm going to add my 2 instances of authors into this database. Awesome. So it has been created. Let's see if it has actually worked. So go to author table, and then if I execute, it's surely enough, it is there. Great. Everything works fine. Now what I want to do is in this section, let's now add books to the database. To do so, what I'm going to do is we're going to go to the main.py, and then I'm going to create an endpoint. So the user posts to this endpoint. What I want to do is create this function called toAuthor1. So first of all, I want to find the user. I want to find my author with the ID of 1. So to do so, I just do Bob is equals to db. So take my database dot session dot execute. So I want to execute a certain command. So I want to select, and then I want to select an author dot filter by, and so I'm going to set a condition. So I want to get an author which has the ID of 1, and then use this function to get my result. Okay, and then I'm going to get some data from the user. So I'm going to store it in the data variable, get underscore JSON, and then so whatever data we have, book to add, I'm gonna store it in this variable. So book, so name will be, so we're gonna get the name from the user, and my author is gonna be Bob. So now that we have the data, I'm gonna add it to the database. There's the session.add, book to add, db.session.commit to finalize the transaction, and then return name, and then I'm going to return the latest thing that was added, add.name, and its ID, book to add .id. I basically want to do the same to the second author, so just I'm going to copy paste this code. ID is equals to 2, and this is name gonna be named Alice. It all looks fine. Let's now test it out. So if I go to my request body, and then I'm going to do a post request for author 1, and then for author 1, and then if I want to do book written from author 1, let's see if it works. Okay, now let's do the same with author 2, book written from author 2. Let's see if it works. Awesome. Let's see if it has been added to the database. If I go to book table, and then I'm going to do execute. So yeah, great. As you can see, the data has been added to the database. Okay, so now in this section, now that we've added the books into the database, what I want to do is I want to retrieve them by author. To do so, I'm going to create a separate endpoint called app.get. They're basically going to be author 1, get author 1. So I want to find a book, and then it's basically going to be the same select clause, db.select, but this time I'm going to find using the books table. Okay, dot filter by. So what I want to do is, since I want to get all of the books written by the first author, I will set my author ID clause to 1. So this is how we do it. So in my filter by clause, I'm going to add author ID will be 1 dot scalars. So it can be multiple objects. Then result, I'm going to store the result, book to find the all. Sorry, let's do data. Result will be an empty array. So I want to add all of the data, all of the books written by the first author into this result variable. So to do so, I want to add 4 items in data, and then it will help me get a dictionary of objects, comma id items.id. Of course, I have to add them in quotation marks. And then what I want to do is I want to send my result array in JSON format. So return JSONify result. That's it. And I want to do basically the same thing for the second author. So let's see if it works. I'm going to do a get, and then it should give me all of the books written by the second author. I do get author 1. Awesome, so it works. Let's do a post request to author 1, book written from author 1 part 2. Let's add it, and then I'm gonna do this one to the 2 part 2. The SQL, let's add more text, and then let's see if it works. Great, and then I'm going to do a get request for author 1. Let's see if it gives me 2 books. Yeah, it's now giving me 2 books written by my first author, and then if I do the second author, it's going to give me everything I need. Awesome. So yeah, that's it for today. So in this video, you learned how to use SQLAlchemy to interact with your PostgreSQL database using Python. And then you also learned in this video, you also learned how to use implement simple one-to-many relationships between the two tables. So that's all for today. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you and have a great day. Bye bye.